So, I, 20, have a successful Instagram shop and Etsy shop and make a pretty good living doing it full time. I didn't tell anyone for a while because my sister is very money hungry and thinks that I owe her since she took care of me while I was younger. My sister is around 26 and has 3 kids and pregnant again. Her boyfriend, the kid's father, barely works part-time and they both live in low-income housing. Anyways, I was able to pay off my student loans. I didn't have too much since we are military and I had gotten the GI Bill. My sister never went to college and I gave some money to my dad because he did a pretty good job raising me. Now, when he finally asked where I got all the money, I finally caved and told him I had my own side business and showed him all my revenue, my income, how much I saved for taxes, and how much I saved for my apartment. Little did I know my sister was on the phone with my dad and heard everything. At first she was kinda polite about it and started asking me to pay for things, her rent, since my dad pays for her rent, what her kids need, food, etc. I, of course, always said no. Now, I check my finances twice every week and I make sure I have everything in line. Since I don't have an actual income, like getting paid every 2 weeks, I make sure I'm on top of that. My bank has you stay with your parent in a shared account until you are 21. I don't about everyone else's bank, so my dad has access to all my passwords, account information, etc. When I was looking at bank account, I noticed a lot of money was missing, $3,000 plus, and I instantly called my bank and found out my father actually withdrew that money. When I confronted him about it, apparently my sister needed stuff for her kids, and I'm not talking diapers, I'm talking stupid things like the newest generation iPad. Now, $3,000 is a lot of money. I put in countless hours working on orders. When I confronted my sister, she gave me a sob story saying she needed it for rent and her kids and food. I told her that she needs to give me my money back and then she got furious, saying that you need to help out family. And while I have no problem buying diapers, formula, etc. for her, that doesn't cost $3,000. I told her if she doesn't have the money within the next 4 months, again she works part-time, that I would sue her. Everyone is seemingly on her side in which you don't do that to family, but rightfully it is my money and I worked very hard to get it. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but open a sole account as soon as possible. Your sister was well out of line by asking, but your father committed the bigger betrayal by stealing your money and gifting it to your sister. I'd consider letting his superior officers know about the theft. That might be too scorched earth depending upon family circumstances, but you definitely need to get away from them and ensure they have no further access to your accounts or financial information. Given you've mentioned military, your dad could get in serious trouble for theft. In the United Kingdom, if military police were involved, that would likely be dismissal from the service. Not sure where you are and the protocol for the police, but maybe let him know if she doesn't pay you back, sell the iPads and other nonsense, that you'll be forced to report it. Your sister is entitled and needs to stop having babies if she can't look after the one she already has. 3 kids is a hell of an expense, never mind adding another. I'm honestly not sure if a lawyer could help. When I worked at a bank, funds in a joint account belonged to both parties. So while it's terrible and there's absolutely no reason for your dad to take your money, it may legally belong to him also if he's on the bank account. You do need to switch banks as soon as possible though. Not all banks have that age requirement, and now that you know how he is, you need to separate your money as soon as possible. My wedding was September 21st, 2021. We had a fairly decent sized wedding. My cousin, on my stepdad's side, we are not close whatsoever, and her boyfriend have only been dating not even 6 months at this point. I've met the guy once before my wedding, and he never shows up to any family functions. We're all having a great time at my wedding. My husband and I are mingling with guests while everyone dances. The next thing I know is my cousin's boyfriend asks the DJ for his mic and goes to the center of the dance floor, saying he has an announcement to make and calls my cousin over. So, I rush over and say, nope, no one is getting engaged during my special day, especially during my reception. You can get engaged later tonight but not right now. It's my day. Thank you for understanding. And I go to walk away. My cousin starts puffing and my aunt, her mom, starts yelling at me and calling me an entitled brat. It causes a huge fight and they all end up leaving. My mom, stepdad, dad, and stepmom all are on my side and were even pissed that they think it's okay to do that during a wedding they all paid for. My nana, stepdad's mom, says I was wrong and told me to apologize and call them over and allow him to propose. Needless to say, it didn't happen. Flash forward to Christmas. It was terrible. My stepdad's entire side were rude and ignoring my husband and I. And of course, guess what happens? My cousin and her now fiancé announced their wedding date, September 21st, 2022. I'm beyond pissed and so not planning to go. It's my damn 1-year wedding anniversary. My family is upset that they would do that to piss me off for not allowing them to get engaged during my reception. My cousin says they chose to get married on their 1-year engagement anniversary. Either way, regardless of the real reason, I'm still upset. Of course, my nana is super excited. So, am I the idiot for not allowing them to get engaged during my wedding reception? And am I the idiot for not attending the wedding on my 1-year anniversary? Not the idiot. Proposing at a wedding is straight up rude. Especially without permission. You were 100% in the right to stop that from happening. A lot of work, time and money goes into planning a wedding and reception. Taking advantage of that to make it all about you is super messed up. As for attending their wedding, I'd say might as well go and drink on their dime. I enjoy weddings, so it probably wouldn't bother me a ton. You could always ask the DJ for the mic to make a speech about how happy you are to have been married for a year and how wonderful it is to spend your anniversary with all of your family. Don't mention the couple at all. See how they like someone pulling the focus away from a day they worked hard for. Not the idiot for declining to go. Their so-called revenge on you is even a perfect excuse to decline their wedding. Just say you have other plans whenever asked. If someone tries to pry and find out if your plans are good enough to skip the wedding, just say that it's your 1-year anniversary, of course you have important plans. It was very rude of them to try to propose at your wedding and have an argument at the wedding instead of taking their no and moving on and give you the cold shoulder on Christmas and continue to hold a grudge over it. The only time a proposal at a wedding is okay is when it's been discussed with the bride and groom beforehand. It's poor manners at best. I don't think you're the idiot for skipping their wedding, but if they're a family member you previously had a close relationship with and want to stop the family drama, I'd consider being the bigger person and just go. If you don't care though, get pregnant and announce your pregnancy at their reception. I have a younger sister, 26, who's disabled. I won't get into it, but she's unable to work a full-time job and is on disability, which isn't much. She's been living with me for 3 years. I pay for nearly everything including groceries, but she chips in for utilities or takeout once in a while. Last year she started dating a guy and got very serious very quickly. He's underemployed with social anxiety and lives off of a little money his parents send him each month. He also moved in with us a few months back. I live in a larger house so didn't mind 2 more people at the time. 2 weeks ago my sister told me she was pregnant. I was shocked. She said she's around 1.5 months along and they're excited to be parents. I didn't know how to react and sat on it for a few days before approaching both of them and saying that I can't have them raising a baby in my home. I basically support both of them at this stage, letting them use their own money, again, not much, for leisure things like movies or video games. I asked them how they plan on paying for a baby and they didn't think it was a big deal. I imagine if the baby comes I'll probably end up paying for all 3 of them. In the end I told both of them that they can stay with me until the baby comes, but I don't want a baby in my home and the huge amount of responsibility that will probably fall to me. My sister cried and her boyfriend accused me of being two-faced because they have nowhere else to go. I offered to help them parent for the first few months and budget for them, but they're resistant. My sister is now saying I'm essentially forcing them to give up their baby by kicking them out. I feel bad, but I feel like if this keeps going, I'll be supporting an entire family on my own for who knows how long. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, doing a baby is their choice. You're not two-faced, it's incredibly rude they didn't let you know they planned to have a baby. They're relying on your guilt and morality to stay there. That's what they planned. If they don't have enough for them, you're damn right you'll have to pay for that baby too, with a crap ton of guilt tripping if you don't. Not the idiot. Social anxiety is not a reason not to work or do anything around the house. He found a free ride and is taking full advantage. Whether or not the baby comes, it's time for them to go. She'll get more money for the baby, and he can contact a disability lawyer and get out on disability if he can't work, or he can find a job. Either way, it's time to move on. There's no reason you should be supporting 3 people. Wanting to be allowed to sleep through the night, have quiet dinners, and not trip over baby toys are all perfectly reasonable things to want in your own home. Not wanting to help raise or pay for another person's baby, even when that baby is family, is perfectly reasonable. If your parenting plan is to let other people pay for and help raise your baby because you can't or won't do both yourself, you need a new plan and a reality check. Maybe they will have to place the baby for adoption if they can't figure something else out. Or maybe they'll figure out how to be adults, because that's the type of parents babies need. Adults. Either way, it isn't your responsibility to sort out. I, 26, am getting married in about 2 months. I sent out my wedding invitations recently, and at the bottom it says adults only. No exceptions. First, let me say that I love kids. But my fiancé and I made the decision to not allow kids and babies to our ceremony because they get bored, cry, won't sit still, have tantrums, and I just don't want that to happen during our wedding. We're also going to have an open bar, and I don't particularly want a bunch of drunk adults around my little cousins or my friends' children. I have a cousin, we'll call her Sam, that texted me last night saying, "So you're dead honest seriously telling me I cannot bring her son to your wedding?" To which I said yes. Sam responds, "Then I can't come," and that freaking kills me. I just want you to know how badly I want to be there, and I have dreamt my entire life of standing next to you at your wedding. But I just can't want to be somewhere with someone who doesn't want the other half of my heart there. She's trying guilt trip me into letting her bring her son. Saying, "And I've confided in my best friends and they say it's your wedding, it's your right to have it the way you want, but yeah. I just want you to know it's not vengeance when I don't come. I'll probably cry like an idiot the entire day." I suggested that she take her son, he's 7, to his friend's house for a few hours so that she can attend. She says, "I can't just tell him no and leave him somewhere. I'm not strong enough to do that to his sensitive little heart. I could if he wasn't so aware and sensitive. It would hurt him too much. He's too smart to manipulate." I'm not asking her to manipulate her son. I'm asking that she be an adult and tell him he can't come and that children aren't allowed to attend, so she'll take him to his friends while she's gone. Not to mention that she's angry that I didn't choose her to be my maid of honor. I chose my stepsister. While on the phone, Sam said, "I don't mean any offense by this, but screw her. She's literally only mad because my dad cheated on my mom 10 years ago and married the woman he cheated with. She hates my sister because she hates my stepmom." I ended up being on the phone with her for half an hour talking to her about this. With her constantly telling me, "I'm trying to get sober, so I just wanted to talk to you and tell you how I feel." Which to me, sounds like she's going to blame me if I still tell her no and she decides to drink again. We ended the phone call with her saying, "Would you just promise me one thing, even if it's a lie? Will you just promise me that you'll consider it and that you'll talk to your fiancé about it?" So I told her yes, that I promised I'd consider it or talk to him about it. And I did, I considered it, I talked, angry cried, to him, and I'm not changing my mind. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. We had the same rule at our wedding, which killed me a bit because of how close we are to our family. But as you said, kids are often bored and unpredictable at the ceremony and the reception isn't a great place if there's heavy drinking. We sent out 4-year-old home at 8 p.m. when things started to get rowdy. Also, the stuff with her pushing her way into the bridal party, shut it down as soon as possible and get the bridal party wear so they can shut it down on the day. This is your and your fiancé's wedding, this is the choice you two made, and it's downright rude of your cousin to think you were going to make a special exception for her son. It's also insanely rude to try and guilt trip you. And frankly, I have to say kudos to you for making that decision with there being an open bar. Lastly, I want to say congratulations. I just hope you live in an area where things aren't super bad so your wedding can go forth as you have it planned. I got married at 20. I had a good friend that had 2 kids that she was raising on her own. No one would babysit. She brought the kids and the first time they acted up, she got them to be quiet. Second time, she left. She didn't want her kids affecting the ceremony. I didn't have rules against kids, but it's a good idea. especially now, with all the focus on our little darlings. Many are growing up thinking they are the center of the world. Stick to your guns, not the idiot. My wife, 33, is a stay-at-home mom with our son, 4, and we also have a daughter, 6, in school. Last Friday I get a frantic call from my wife around noon that our son fell off the top bunk while she wasn't looking and now his arm looks really swollen. So, I find him crying and holding an incredibly swollen, red arm sitting on the ground and refuses to let anyone touch it. My wife is sitting on the couch crying and saying how his arm looks so bad. I pick him up to go to the emergency room. I try to dress him since he can't open his arms and ask her to get the car seat ready. She doesn't move and keeps crying. I give up and do the best I can and call for my wife to get in. She just sobs and shakes her head saying I can't. So, I drive off without her. I got really annoyed at my wife at this point. We get to the hospital and they want to run him through some x-rays and he's screaming bloody murder. Around 3 p.m. I get a call from my daughter's school saying that no one's picked her up, my wife's job, so I call my wife. No one picks up. I call 3-4 more times before I rush out to the school. My son was inconsolable at me leaving him. Even the doctors were confused why I had to leave so soon. I get home with my daughter and rush in to find my wife still crying on the phone to her sister. I absolutely let loose and yelled, "Where the hell were you? Why didn't you answer my calls?" She's shocked and just screams at me back that she's overwhelmed and can't handle all this right now. I get our daughter out and tell my wife to look after her. My daughter is crying because mom's crying and hangs onto my legs wanting to go with me. My wife makes no move to help me, so I just ended up bringing our daughter with me to the hospital. The next day, while our kids were both sleeping, I couldn't hold back and yelled at my wife for being absolutely zero help. She got equally mad and told me I humiliated her in front of her sister when I yelled when she was on the phone and that I should have been more considerate of the fact that she is really bad in emergencies. Well, I know she's not great in emergencies, this was something else, and I felt like I didn't have a partner at all. Now she wants an emergency couples counseling session to address my rage, but I am honestly conflicted. I've never yelled at her before, and I do feel guilty, but I also feel like these circumstances were extreme. However, I did apologize for yelling and wonder if I made things worse. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She needs an emergency counseling session on why she crumbled. Take her up on the counseling. She can talk about your rage, while you talk about her serious panicked response, which has you worried about whether she's able to care for your children by herself. This kind of response is really extreme. Your wife may really have some kind of PTSD you just don't know about that got triggered. It's her responsibility to figure it out. And yours to help her. This is the thick and thin part. But most importantly, to make sure she has a safety plan for what happens if something else scares her. She left one child sitting in agony, then left the other child abandoned at school. Part of being a parent is pushing your own crap aside to take care of your kids and then having a breakdown once they're cared for. To be perfectly honest, I would tell her either she gets counseling to figure out how to do what needs to be done, or she needs to go back to work and put your kids in daycare because, as it stands, they would be better cared for in an emergency at a daycare than your wife has shown herself capable of. You could probably use emergency couples therapy, but more so to address your wife's inability to act. Also, why could she not answer your phone call? Especially since she was on the phone, it obviously would have beeped in her ear, and she declined it. Maybe freaking out could have been acceptable if it weren't for the extra part of leaving your daughter at school and not helping. That in itself is not an emergency, simply her job as a stay-at-home mom. If yelling isn't an everyday occurrence, it's not really an anger issue. You have the right to be angry.